A relevant reading we have this Sunday when we also commemorate the great martyr Demetrius the Mergasha of Thessalonica. Now, I don't know if any of you have actually been to Thessalonica. I know some of you have. But there in a church, right in the middle of this bustling cosmopolitan city, up on a hillock is the church where Saint Demetrius is entombed in a casket. And day after day, from it flows myrrh. We have some here that was given to us already quite a while back, and you can still see the fragrance in it. It's an unworldly fragrance that nothing can really match, and people who have tried to analyze it say that there is no chemical of that nature that they know about. Why is it when this great miracle occurs on a daily basis that the world is not converted to the true faith? There it is for anybody to see. There it is, right there. All you have to do is pay for a ticket to Thessaloniki, get on the bus and take you there, and you can see the myrrh. You can have swabs of it and bring it home, even little bottles full of it. It's like the parable that our Lord gave to us today about the rich man who enjoyed himself with his riches, yet completely ignored those who were in need and gave no account to them about that at all. Then, when he reposed, it was obvious that his reward was one of torment. Another one who was in torment whilst here on earth and begging for food and begging for a little comfort received none then, but now receives much in the kingdom of heaven. But the point is that this man thinks about his brothers. He says, I have 5 of them. Please go and show yourself to them so that they can believe. So obviously they were unbelievers. And the answer that came back was, no. Because even if they saw the dead rise, they would still not believe. Just as thousands of people passed through that church in Thessaloniki every day, because it is open every day, believers and unbelievers, Orthodox and non-Orthodox and all sorts, tourists and whatever, do they all come out believing? Very few. Very, very few. The soul of a person is in such a strange, fallen way that very rarely does a miracle sent either from God or the saints. Turn that soul in the right direction. And when people see such things, they might be startled for a little while, and the next day they start asking themselves, did that really occur? Is there some sort of natural explanation to it? Or is it just some other phenomenon? And after 3 or 4 days, there is hardly any remembrance of what has happened. Thus, to believe, you have to believe, first of all, with your heart about the salvation that has been given to us. Whenever I'm in a conversation with people and there is talk about so-called religion and which one is which, point out to them that Orthodoxy is not a religion, and therefore do not put it in the same basket as Anglicanism, Catholicism, or all the other isms that there are in the world, whether they're Christian or not. Very few ask, well, what is it then, if it's not a religion? What is it? Do you know yourselves what it is? What is it that we are here for? Why do we do these things? Why? Is this some sort of establishment with rules and regulations which, if we follow them correctly, we end up in heaven, and if we don't follow them, we perish? What is it to you? There have been people in the past that have given answers to these questions, and the surprising thing is that some of the best answers came from those who were not Orthodox. What is it? It's the face to face, eye-to-eye contact between us and Christ, who has become one of us. That's how it was. That surprised the whole world, that God, all of a sudden, becomes one of us and comes and talks to us, sits with us, lets us touch him, lets us see him, talk to him. Nobody was expecting anything like that. Then when you take that situation further, you realise that Christ did this so that we would then become like him in our lives. Not by following a whole set of rules and regulations, but by changing our heart and our attitudes to things and acquiring those things which we call virtues and the life-giving aspects of the commandments. Thou shalt not kill, commit adultery, that you will love the Lord thy God with your whole soul, your whole mind, all your thoughts, and your neighbour as yourself. All these are Christ-like qualities. All these are the ways that Christ is. He has no hatred in him at all. and no revengefulness in him at all, and no ideas or motivations to punish somebody or to hurt them at all, because that's not what God is. St. John, the theologian, in his epistles, answers the question who he is. He's love, pure love. Pure love. And pure love cannot have any of those negative aspects. We, however, suffer in various ways, and sometimes think, oh, God is punishing me. I did this, I did that, and now I'm bearing the consequences of that. Well, that's not strictly true. The reason you are in that situation of pain or suffering or anything like that is, first of all, that we live in a world which is decaying, which is passing away, which is rotting. In other words, it has no life in it. It's dying. And we are born with flesh also destined for that sort of end. Flesh that will feel pain and suffering and all those sorts of things. And nobody can escape that aspect of their life. Nobody. That is why Christ came, to pull us out of that world. Pull us out of it. And give us a world where there will be no pain, sorrow, suffering, or any of those sorts of things. But in order for us to have that, we need to acquire Christ's likeness in ourselves. Because a person who does not acquire Christ's likeness will feel pain and suffering and sorrow in those places that God has made for him. That is the torment of hell. That you who have not prepared yourself to be like Christ cannot bear to be in the brightness and the power and the goodness from which emanates that virtue from Christ. But it hurts. It's like trying to look at the sun. Trying to look at the sun. It's an analogy. Therefore, I ask you once again, because you live in a non-Orthodox country, people will ask you about your faith, and often they might even ask you in a derogatory manner, having a bit of a joke or whatever at you. The moment you tell them that Orthodoxy is not a religion, you often have their ear. And then you can explain to them what it is, that it's the meeting of God who becomes man with mankind. Fantastic thing. We know who God is. We know who he is. We have spoken to him. He has told us things, and he continues to tell us and guide us. My son came out of school this week, and his school is next to college which professes the faith of the Old Testament, if you know what I mean. And my son, when he had put his clothes on, his cross wasn't quite solid. They noticed this and started to swear at him and curse him on account of that. I'm talking about Australia. I'm not talking about Palestine or Syria or anything like that, but I'm telling you this in Australia, coming from a young boy of 12 or so, 13. So therefore, somewhere in those classrooms, they are being taught these sorts of things against Christians. Otherwise, where else would a 12-year-old acquire such vehement hatred for Christ? Where? Where? Only from being taught by the teachers that they have, hidden behind doors, whispered in special seminars or whatever. And what other things are taught around the world to such people? Do we start with cursing them, that is, cursing Christians, and then perhaps burning down their temples, and then shooting them, or what? These are real things that are happening, and they're happening around the world. And in Australia, they would happen given the chance, because the idea about that is already there. It's already there. You all have to be careful, because these sorts of things, when children of that age are taught such things, it's obviously they're being prepared for something much more very soon. Just as before World War II, children in Germany were prepared for something else, and the same for World War I. God help us in this struggle, but don't let those sorts of things put you away from doing the work that you are supposed to be doing, and that is confessing Christ. That yes, we have met God, He has talked to us and shown us the way to salvation. And you, whoever you might be, don't even know who He is. Not only that, in many cases you are not even allowed to say His name. What kind of God is that? Do you see the difference between love and the other side? Because that's what the difference is. And we need to acquire that love in our lives, starting with the things that we have around us and growing into whatever the Lord puts in front of us. God help us with this struggle and with getting through what seems to be like a third world war on the world already started, so that we come out of it with our faith intact above anything else. Above anything else. That our faith comes out intact, and perhaps brings others to that as well, because there's nothing like a war to shake up a lot of people. I hate to say that, but God help you and protect you in your struggles and give you joy that you do belong to the God that you do know and to whom you can talk to and who will answer you and give you guidance in your life. Amen.